Hey, 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 and welcome to a brand new season of Filmies Chats. I'm Shelby Cook, the head curator and editor-in-chief at Film East. If you're a longtime listener of Filmies Chats, you'll know that we are very DIY around here. But baby, let me tell you, Filmies Chats is about to be elevated to about 4 out of 10. Let me tell you, we are going to bump up the production value. We have royalty-free music now. We are entering into our 5th season of Filmies Chats, so I think by now, 30-some episodes deep of the show, it's about time to put a little bit more production value in here. We have some interesting ideas bouncing around in our Filmies group chat to bring some new and exciting things to this podcast space, so make sure to keep an eye out for all the updates. And I know we haven't been good at this for the past year. We will be back to a monthly release schedule. Hopefully. We will. We're going to be back to a monthly release schedule. I promise. In this first episode of season 5, I'm joined with Will Schofield, and we're going to discuss the Oscars. But not the Oscar-nominated films. If you would have listened to our last episode, we did discuss our favorite films of 2023. Instead, in this episode, we are going to break down the system of the Oscars. What is it? How does a film get nominated for the Oscars? And what are the politics that go on behind the scenes for a film to get nominated at the Oscars? So we're really going to be dissecting what exactly the Oscars as an organization is. Filmies Chats is part of Film East Online, which is a space for free online content in varying media to educate, inform, and inspire about all things cinema. Film East is a multi-award-winning film organization based in the east of England and the east coast of the US. So without further ado, please enjoy myself and Will discussing the Academy Awards. All right, so we are, at the time of recording, 1 day away from the 2024 Oscars ceremony.
The big day.
The big day, the penultimate day for film nerds. So I thought what would be an interesting conversation to have here on Filmies Chats would be to kind of discuss the impact of the Oscars or the impact of these film awards. I think people who are fans of movies or, typically like the general public seem to have this idea that the Oscars are the end-all be-all of cinema, and films that get nominated at the Oscars are truly the best films of the year. But I think what a lot of people don't take into consideration is the process that goes on behind the scenes of how a film gets to the Oscars, what is sort of the politics of the Oscars voting, and all of that mumbo jumbo. So I thought it would be kind of an interesting episode to break down sort of what it is that like this Oscars campaign. I mean, you hear this all the time, the award circuit, what that is and how a film kind of makes it to the Oscars, and sort of our own, sprinkle in our own opinions and our own thoughts about the Oscars. Because I think a lot of people tend to think that I get this all the time is whenever I tell people, I do film criticism, that's what I do. And then everyone's always like, oh, do you watch the Oscars? Oh, what do you think of the Oscars movies? And it's like, there are thousands of movies that are released a year, and the Oscars, a whole bunch of white men picking 10 films and saying those are the best movies released that year is just, a bit outdated. But so I think let's start with sort of the process of how a film gets into this award circuit. So I think from my understanding of it, I will admit, I have never been nominated for an Oscar. I have never worked with anyone who has been nominated for an Oscar. So I have never had firsthand experience working in this sort of sector. But from my understanding as someone from the outside, is I think there's sort of three main components that are involved in this sort of process. It's the marketing of a film, it's the press around a film, and it's the voters. Um, I think something that a lot of people always criticize is, oh, every movie that's nominated at the Oscars always comes out in October or November. Well, there's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the award release time. Um, and the reason for this is that all of the voters start to vote around the end of the year. And the point of a marketing campaign for these distribution companies is to be as loud as possible, make your film the one that people are thinking about. So this works in tandem with critics and the press. You want the critics to say, you want the critics to have those clickbait terms: best picture of the year, best performance of the year. And if you can get those critics to say those things, then it's going to draw up more publicity for your film. It's going to get more attention for your film. And essentially what your goal is to be on the forefront of the voter's mind. You want to be the loudest film in the room, so everyone's talking about you.
Mm.
Uh,
There's an interesting situation that we were talking about the other day is when we're recording this in mid-March 2024, June 2 was just released. And that was originally scheduled for November 2023, which would have been prime
yeah.
award season period, but due to a few factors, namely the Hollywood strikes, it was delayed until kind of mid-February global release, which is what in the industry is known as a dump month,
Mm.
which is basically when movies that aren't expected to do fantastically are kind of shipped out. January is the worst dump month. October, unless you're a horror movie, that's often kind of dump month this period. Basically, it's the end of the year and kind of the beginning of summer are generally the golden periods that you want. And so it's fascinating that June 2, which probably would have been, if not if not a front runner, then at least would have been nominated for a fair few of the effect
And
categories and stuff.
yeah, would have gotten all of the technical
Absolutely
awards.
would have gone that is instead got released in such an awkward period and has kind of got a hope for uh a maintaining of attention. It's quite in recent years that has happened more often. Everything Everywhere All at Once was kind of released very early in the year. Barbie and Oppenheimer were both released kind of summer periods, and then through just word of mouth and kind of cultural attention, managed to maintain the buzz to the Oscars. But that is a kind of a rarity in terms of how it usually goes.
I think for this year, the one that slipped through the net because it had that early in the year release was Past Lives. That was a film
Mm,
that was generating a lot of critic attention. A lot of people were talking about that film. A lot of people wanted that film to get nominated. And I think it may have gotten like Golden Globes. It may have gotten a couple of like early awards, but it has been completely passed over in terms of the Oscars.
mm.
Um, I think
I'm
it's,
similarly. Oh, sorry.
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm similarly surprised about Asteroid City getting absolutely
Yeah.
nothing anywhere,
And
and that was quite an early release.
yeah, that came out in like March, wasn't it? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think it's, there is like a time frame. It's with any award. So if you think about the Grammys or the Emmys, any award, there is a time frame in which your film has to be released in order to be nominated. Um, I don't know the exact cutoff date for the Oscars, but I would imagine it's probably towards the end of the year, which is when
Mm,
the voting starts. So again, that is why if you're the last film to be released, you're on the forefront of the voters' minds. And that's what's going to get you nominated versus if you come out earlier in the year, people have forgotten about you because all of the marketing people are building up buzz for their other movies. And you also have that sort of competition too within the distribution companies too. So you have like A24 releases more than one movie a year, but they have to decide what movie do they want to put forward towards the Oscars. So it
Mm.
is a very big like political campaign in terms of like people think that it's this very organic thing where it is based genuinely on merit. People think that is these are really the best movies of the year, but it's not. It is, very much a political campaign of people are going out, chatting up these people, taking everyone out to lunch, telling them why you should vote for my film. And it's not necessarily based entirely on the skill of the movie or the technicality of the movie.
And this is especially true in the foreign features
Yeah.
category, because each of those, each country gets like one shot, and so they've got to be
Mhm.
very careful. And there was actually big controversy this year in France. Do you know about this?
I
Um,
remember hearing about it, but I
yeah.
can't tell you the story.
So Anatomy of a Fall is a French movie that came out this year, and it's up for Best Picture, it's up for Best Actress, it's up for loads of stuff. It's fantastic, fantastic film. However, it is not up for Best Foreign Film, which it would probably have walked. And people are saying the reason for that, and instead the nomination of, I think it's The Taste of Things, which by all accounts is another fantastic film, but it's because Justine Triet, the director of Anatomy of a Fall, came out at an award show and delivered a speech heavily criticizing the Emmanuel Macron, the current president of France, and some like tax reforms, a whole lot of controversy that I don't know a lot about. But people are saying because she criticized this, that's why they basically revoked her nomination, the nomination of Anatomy of a Fall, and put this other film up. And so
Hmm.
clearly, not only is it like insider politics going on, but actually real world
Yeah.
geopolitics are an important factor in these nominations because, the eyes of the world are generally on the Oscars. It's the big film one globally.
And I'm trying to find the nominations right now, but I'm 100% sure that Zone of Interest is nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah.
So Zone of Interest is one of those films that is nominated for Best Picture, but also in the international category. And
Yes.
it's going to win Best International Film. Um, so it's a very odd, I think this is the controversy. This is why those, 10 years ago or whatever, when that hashtag came out, Oscar so white, you know, why this controversy came up because all of the voters for the Oscars are predominantly white, middle class, upper class men. Um, so there was a lot of criticism of the works that were being chosen for these sort of categories. And you didn't have, I don't think really until Parasite, there wasn't really any big international films, foreign language
Mm.
films that were put in Best Picture to even win Best Picture. Um, so there was a lot of bias going on, and there was a lot of, particularly Best Picture, I think, always, before this sort of Oscars became quote unquote woke. Um, obviously there's still a lot of improvements to be made, but there was always a lot of American films and a lot of UK films. Western films were the ones that were always nominated for Best Pictures. It was the big studios, it was the big marquee names. Who is the who's who of Hollywood would be the ones that would get nominated for these things. Um, and you are starting to see, um, more films of, from different countries get nominated for Best Picture. Obviously, Parasite is the big one that, is being recognized, because it did win the Best Picture. Um, and it does actually show the importance of, it does show the importance of the Oscars for general public and the education of cinema to normal people, because my dad, he every year he will watch every Oscar nominated film. He has absolutely
Wow.
he has no taste whatsoever in cinema. He watches the worst movies you could ever see. He watches the dumbest movies, like, but every year he will watch the Best Picture nominees. And he, every single time he's like, oh, that's stupid. I don't like that movie because it's, a slow burn indie art house film and he doesn't understand it. But every year, regardless, he will still watch them. And he was someone who, religiously said, I will not read a film. I'm not going to watch a foreign language film because I don't want to read it. And he watched Parasite, and goddamn, did he not say to me, "Oh, that movie was pretty good." Yeah, see what happens when you open your mind and you read a film? Yeah, you might have to look down at the bottom of the screen every once in a while, but it's a good movie. So, it does show the importance of these awards hold so much gravity in our cultural psyche. Yes, we people, as people who are knowledgeable about film, who have an education about film and know, the sort of corruptness of these award shows, understand that, yes, the awards, yes, the films that are nominated in these awards are more often than not very well made films. They're very good films. Are they the best films that made in the entire span of an entire year? Are they the best films? Probably not. Um, but we can we can take it as a grain of salt. We understand the process. But the normal people who are just watching movies and, trying to like engage in this art form don't understand that. So putting forward these films that are more challenging, that are from different perspectives. Moonlight, for example, was such a revolution because it was celebrating, Black identity and Black queer identity in the mainstream. Um, so these films I mean, these award shows do hold a lot of gravity. And, for the Academy, their thing is educating about cinema and preserving the art of cinema. And I think, it is a bit, ironic that their films, their award show, which is huge in the public and the cultural sphere, is dominated by this sort of politics of, who's going to give us the most money, who can afford to put the most money into marketing to get their film in a nomination versus, a smaller, very small film that may be genuinely the best film of the year, but they don't have a marketing budget to get the attention of award voters.
I think there's a really big issue in the fact that the Oscars is seen as the global film awards,
Yeah,
when in reality it's not. It's the American Film Awards that happens to
yeah,
have like six slots for foreign films in there. Or at least most countries do have their own film awards. There's Berlinale, there's BAFTAs,
yeah.
there's Venice, there's all these different
And
yeah, exactly. And and I think the difficulty in just pointing at one as the be all end all, the one that comes after all the others, the one that has the final say effectively, is that it really kind of does skew, because as you said, public perception on these films, particularly kind of art house ones, is generally swayed by this award season. And so by promoting the same 10 or so films, not only in all of them, but having them pretty much all be American ones
mm,
is startling. And it leads to incredible snubs. There's RRR the other year,
yeah,
has got nominated for like best song, and that's it. And that was like one of the best movies I'd seen last year. Horror is always a
mm,
famously ignored. Um, Musicals generally get a couple like pity ones and maybe the song, but they're never nominated for any of the. I don't want to say the proper awards, but you know what I mean, the more
yeah.
prestigious ones. Um, and there's just wide berths of cinema that aren't really getting recognized for the cultural and just significance of the art because of the way that this specific award is structured and how it reverberates throughout the rest of the industry, really.
And it's a business at the end of the day. They're trying
Yeah,
to get people to watch the ceremony. That's been this issue, this conversation for years now, is how do we get more people to watch the ceremony? But at, at that, with that mindset, you're losing what it is that you're trying to celebrate, and it's the art of cinema. Instead, you're
mm,
trying to put the most amount of famous people in one room and get them to do something goofy so it becomes a meme, and then it, goes viral. It's that's what the goal is now with these award shows, and it's with every award show. It's the same thing with like the Grammys and all of that.
Do you remember Malala Yousafzai getting attacked by Cocaine Bear last year?
I vaguely remember it. Yes.
I think about that all the time, and whenever I mention it to people, they're like, "What are you talking about? That's a nonsense sentence."
They always do something that is just so stupid. And you're like, what
Yeah.
is this? Like with
Oh.
that Ellen selfie that one year. That was
Oh
like
my God, 10
the
years.
biggest thing to ever happen in the entire world is all these celebrities are in a selfie together. Like what? That's so stupid.
It's so funny how about 50% of them have also like been completely cancelled and like
Yeah.
just not good people. It's fascinating.
When genuinely the best moment of the Oscars was when they read La La Land as Best Picture.
Yeah,
That was genuinely so shocking.
they should do that every year.
I remember when that happened, I was about to turn the TV off. I was like, boring, La La Land. And then they were like, wait, no. I was like, what? I genuinely didn't think it was real because it was just so shocking.
The Will Smith smack. The after he gets smacked in the face by Will Smith, the first word out of Chris Rock's mouth were "best night of television," and I agree with you, Chris. You know, I don't see eye to eye with you on a lot of stuff, but this one, you're on the money. Um, God. Speaking of speaking of the marketing that you mentioned and how it is kind of a business, um, the biggest controversy that has been consuming the Oscars since yesterday is Messi the dog.
Yes.
Uh, so Messi is a dog who starred in Anatomy of a Fall, and
He's
has
an
throughout the
actor, not a dog.
sorry, of
He's a
course,
performer.
an actor first. Well, then
Put
why
some
is he not the best
respect.
actor?
Put some respect on his name.
I'm so sorry, Messi. I know you're listening to this, so I apologize to you personally. But so he is a dog who was in Anatomy of a Fall and has been doing the award circuits basically at all the shows, at all the events. He's been there in his little bow tie, barking into microphones. Um, and it came out yesterday that it has been requested that he does not attend the Oscars because several film producers from other rival companies have argued that basically it's a method of trying to sway public opinion and sway the voters towards the movie with the cute dog.
But
Um,
here's the thing, the voting's over. The voting is done with.
well, yeah, to be fair,
It's too late now.
all it's going to do is make people want to go see Anatomy of a Fall.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's probably led by the dog from Zone of Interest, and of course Snoopy, who had a cameo in Maestro.
A hate
And
campaign by the other dogs.
exactly, spearheading it. There was probably a dog in Oppenheimer somewhere. I'm sure he's
Probably
involved.
one that got radiation.
Yeah. Oh God. But no, I do think it's interesting how little things like that are taken seriously
Hmm.
in campaign. Because I originally thought I was just like a kind of cute little TikTok bait, letterbox bait, but clearly yeah, it is taken seriously as a kind of opinion swaying, which to be honest says more about the integrity of the voters than anything. The Academy voters, generally speaking, are not like film critics. There are several in there, but for the most part, it is people who physically work in the industry, like producers mostly, down to like gaffers and lighting technicians. If you've won an award, then you are automatically a member and stuff. And so, what that results in is a majority of the voters are people who either aren't interested or simply don't have time to watch all the stuff they're voting for. Famously, this has affected the animated category massively because a lot of people just kind of write it off and so go, oh, I'll just put down whichever one my kid likes, which is going to be
Yeah.
Disney. So for years and years, that was just the Disney category. Um, and similarly, I think stuff like hair and makeup, it usually goes to whoever does the most notable hair and makeup
The
rather
most
than
ridiculous
necessarily
transformation.
exactly rather than the most skillful. I think the whale won last year,
Hmm.
which says it all really. Um, and it is, and I don't think that's necessarily a terrible thing in the sense that it's getting a wider berth of opinions, and by kind of keep trying to keep it away from just the same ivory tower critics
Yeah.
opinionating on everything, and give kind of a more overall gathering of opinions, but at the same time, it does produce some. Every year before the Oscars, they release a few of the anonymous ballots,
Hmm.
and usually it's for clickbait purposes, and I fall for it every time. There was one I read yesterday from someone who said that they wanted America Ferrara as the Best Supporting Actress, which I disagree, but whatever.
Yeah.
But their reasoning was because they really liked the speech that she gave in Barbie, and they made it clear it wasn't her delivery, it was just the speech itself resonated.
So that's
And
writing.
yeah, it's like, well, it's up for best adapted screenplay, so I think you
Yeah.
should vote for that. But America didn't do that. She didn't improvise that.
She didn't write the speech. Someone else
No,
wrote it. She just read
I
it.
think Greta wrote that probably, and she did a good job of reading it. Don't get me wrong, but like, I don't know. And similarly, I think the same person voted for Ken for best supporting actor because she really liked the song. And it's like, again, Ryan Gosling didn't he didn't just do that spur of the moment, I don't think. I mean, maybe I wouldn't put it past him, but I don't know. And not to just dismiss those opinions altogether, because they are, if those are the performances that like resonated with you, then absolutely vote for them by all means. But I think it does lead to sometimes people who maybe uh don't spend as long pontificating about films as we do. Uh
And
yeah, can
it brings again this conversation about what's the point of a critic, right? I
Mm.
think especially now that with the internet, everyone thinks they're a critic. You can go on Letterbox and you can write a goofy little review and you can say, I'm a film critic. But there's more that goes into being a film critic. You have to have an understanding of how a film works, how to be able to read a film, how to, what are the social implications, what is the themes, what, all of this stuff that goes into it's like telling someone to be able to interpret a painting. How, anyone can eh, the accessibility of art is that anyone can look at a piece of art and interpret it how they want to interpret it. I can look at a painting and say, this is what I see. And it's the same thing with a film. I can look at a film and I can say this is what I think of this film. This was my perception of it. And I'm 100% on what is the audience? How does an audience interpret a film and how does it impact the audience in that way? But to be a legit critic and to be a legit person who actually not only criticizes art, but who interprets art and explains it for people who don't have that education. You have to have that knowledge. And it's not always, I'm not saying you have to go to film school. I'm not saying you have to have a master's degree in film studies. You can get that sort of knowledge from, living and breathing and working in the industry. But I think a lot of people just assume that just because I watch a lot of movies, I'm a film
Mm.
critic. There is still some sort of skill and practice and um, that comes with being able to be an effective critic. And I do agree with that the voters shouldn't be fully critics. I do agree with that. I think the people who actually work in the movies and have an understanding, particularly in their specific craft. So people who work in costuming or makeup should be able to vote in the Oscars and not just leave it up to the critics. But, there's also an element of the critic's voice is still just, is still important in this whole process of understanding art.
Yeah, I absolutely think that there's a certain degree of like curiosity and willingness to meet a film on its own terms and step outside of your comfort zone. And if at the end of that you come out of it and say, I still don't like it, I still don't
Yeah.
think it worked for what it was trying to do, it still didn't resonate with me, that is valid. But I think a lot of the time with a lot of films, people will just like switch it on and be like, it's 3.5 hours, or oh, it's just people punching each other, and kind of basically switch their brains off automatically.
Hmm.
Um, and if you're just putting something on a Friday night after work, that is a completely fine opinion to have. But if you are, again, a voter in one of the largest award shows on the planet, my my boss at my work is a she's a member of BAFTA, and she doesn't vote anymore because she doesn't watch films, and so she says it would be unfair to vote on anything she doesn't know anything about, which completely agree. I think it's very good of her. But I think she has said that there are people out there who will just be like, oh, I haven't watched any of these, and go based on like headlines, or just ask a mate like, hey, do you see this? Was it good? No? Okay, I'll do the other one then. Um, I like this actress in this other movie I saw her in, so she was probably good in this. Um, which I don't know. What it all comes down to is that I think I should be the Oscar voter. I should be the one to do it,
I
and
think
my opinion's all right.
filmies should be invited to join the Oscars. Like, be
Absolutely.
so for real.
The cultural impact we've left behind. No one's doing it like
Exactly.
us.
We
Oh.
we have an imprint in Norfolk in England, and you
Yeah.
know what? We're shaping young minds everywhere.
I remember I know from a reliable source, and I won't say where for reasons. But apparently when it with I know with some of the more technical, I don't know if it's all with all the categories, with some of the more technical categories, what they often do, and I've told you this before, Shelby, they basically, if your team is on the shortlist for an Oscar, you're informed, and if it's like I don't know, the special effects or sound design or costuming or something, you're basically flown down to the academy in like wherever, I think LA, and you basically give a PowerPoint presentation saying, this is what our job is. This is what we do. Here's our film. This pause here. This is an example of how we do our thing here. This is where it's really good. This is why we should get the award over Godzilla. This is why ours is better than theirs. And basically kind of have to pitch it to them, which again, you should this is the academy. You shouldn't have to tell them how films are made. You shouldn't have to tell them why your sound is good. They should know this to be a member, surely. But
Which I just think is so funny. Like, just imagine like Leonardo DiCaprio having to do a
yeah,
PowerPoint. Like, why is my performance better than Paul Maskell?
this is why The Revenant was really good. This is why look at the way I
And
killed this bear.
every year, Leonardo DiCaprio, before he won for The Revenant, all of his nominations, he had to go
Yeah.
every single time, and he still lost.
He's like, there's naked Margot Robbie is in this scene. Is
Please,
that good?
please.
Please. Oh man, I'm still excited though. We've done a lot of smack talking. I still really enjoy the Oscars, even though every year I have my head in my hands and I feel really embarrassed for them. I think there's just something really fun about seeing all the stars in the same room, and all
And
the
that's the spectacle of it. Like when
yeah.
I was in London when the BAFTAs were happening, and me and my friend, and she was just so excited to be able to look over and see the red carpet and see all the celebrities. And she's like, I feel so weird like doing this. I feel like a voyeur. And I was just like, well, that's the spectacle of it. That's what celebrities are there for. Like that's why
Yeah.
they do these things, because they want you to be like, oh my God, celebrities, yay! And then you're gonna go home and watch the BAFTAs. Like you're so excited. You're like, oh my God, I love that actor. That is the spectacle of these award shows. That's why they televise them. That's
Mm.
why they're not luncheons anymore like they used to be back in the 1920s. Um, so, it is you do there are a lot of flaws with the Oscars, but they're also, I think they are genuinely trying to improve and try to be more conscious of their social and cultural impact and what they can actually achieve being this big organization that they are. But there are still a lot of
Mm.
flaws with them, and like you said, not knowing like what makes a good sound design when you are literally the Academy Awards. You are the Academy of Motion Picture.
Yeah.
Like, and you
There's
don't
a
know how
museum in the next building. You
yeah,
should
you
just
don't
go
know
and look.
how a motion picture is made. It's a little questionable, but okay. At least they're letting the experts talk, I guess. I don't know.
I think this year's nominees are good as well. I'm very happy with. I over the past like few weeks I've been watching them all, and save for Maestro, and American Fiction. I really like them all.
American Fiction just sort of came out of nowhere. Like I had not
Yeah,
even heard of that film.
no, it's still like coming out in like at the there's a film festival near me in Herefordshire called like Borderlines, I think. And like I'm pretty sure they haven't even that's the only way to watch like that kind of movie around here, American
Uh-huh.
Fiction. And I'm pretty sure that one hasn't even started showing yet. Like
Mm.
they waited until after the awards. I saw Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest like back to back last week because it was the only time I could see it.
Uh-huh.
Um, I wouldn't recommend it. They're both heavy. They're
Yeah,
very heavy films.
I think after seeing Zone of Interest, you need like a I mean, I'm
Yeah.
going to see Zone of Interest tomorrow before the
Oh,
Oscars, and even that I'm gonna be like, this is a little depressing. I'm gonna need some celebrities doing goofy things on television
yeah.
to
That's the thing.
decompress.
I went home and I watched a bunch of like Sandra Hüller fan cams, and that really
Yeah.
that fixed it. I was like, you know what? She was kind of mothering there.
That monologue did really slap. Even I've seen
Yeah.
the monologue. And
Oh,
apparently I mean I haven't seen Anatomy of the Fall yet, but apparently the judge or what is he? The lawyer.
oh, the lawyer. Yeah.
It's like it's so like so over the top and so camp.
Oh man, that was good actually. That skyrocketed to like I'm an Oppenheimer boy. For the past year on Film East, I've been proclaiming myself on these various podcasts that I am an Oppenheimer head, and I'm not gonna the final hurdle. I'm not gonna step
But
back from that now. I'm behind it all the way.
Killian gave you a shout out in one of his
True.
awards. He was like, "Yeah, this is to the Oppie heads."
I knew a tear fell down my face that day.
And you're like,
I,
"This is the best day of my life."
I hope he calls me out by name tomorrow. I
Yeah,
hope he
exactly.
recognizes everything
Just
I've
like
done
goes
for
out
him.
to Will for filming. I would actually die if that happened. I would be like,
Oh my
"What?"
God. That's got
I'm
to
like,
make me
"Am
a
I
member of the Academy.
hallucinating right now?"
As an Oppie head, I think I should be a member of the Academy. He
Yeah, I
be
think
going there.
I we have four Filmies books out now. I think we deserve
Hmm.
we deserve to
We
have
should set up our own. We should rival them with the Film East
oh
Awards.
the Filmies awards. Oh my God, yeah. We can give everyone like little tiny statues that are made out of plastic instead of gold.
And
That's
to
all we
make up for, we're
that's all we can
only
afford.
we're only inviting the dogs to our ceremony. They're the only
The dog
attendees.
awards. Oh my
The
God, that's
dog
actually
awards.
not a bad idea.
Are there
And
like
it's
a
like
animal and film awards?
best death. Which dog did the best death?
Oh well, that one's tongue fell out of his mouth while he was lying on the floor. That's convincing. That's
Oh yes, look at that one. He rolled over. Yes. We could be the experts in that.
mm, I
All
think
right.
that's a good niche.
Well, we're out of time, so this is the end of our Oscars chat.
Until next year.
Until next year, we'll be back slagging on the Oscars again.
Will June 2 be nominated? Only time will tell.
Only we'll know. Will Timothy be will the big worm be nominated?
Oh, is the big worm invited to the animal awards? I think so.
Is the big worm gonna make an appearance at the
Ooh.
campaigns?
Oh, true. Yeah. I can understand them not inviting him to the awards.
Yeah, he's a little big and aggressive.
Yeah.
Hopefully you enjoyed our brief discussion today. To learn more about Film East and our upcoming events, our film criticism publications, and all of our unique activities, you can visit our website at film-east.com or follow us on any of our social media platforms at films_east, and that's films with an S _east. Make sure you're subscribed to Film East Chats anywhere you listen to podcasts, including Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube, so you never miss one of our deep dives into film and TV. Again, we've been Shelby and Will from Film East, a global film organization. We'll catch you in the next episode.